With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hello, this is Aubrey Light. I'm Mary. I give conservative perspective about the world around me. Alright, so feedback is greatly important. Feel free to reach out to me, and the way to do so will be provided for you in the links. So some of the audio platforms that I'm on Speaker, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, just to name a few. Alright, so this episode is all about Jaws. I'm going to give my perspective about the movie. And just my perspective about the aspects of it's just in general how it was pretty different and everything, and Steven Spielberg, and I'm gonna go in on all of that and then end on some of the facts. Here we go. Okay, so my thoughts about Steven Spielberg and his work and his films. So it's unfortunate the way Steven Spielberg has gone on the wave of we are the voice of progressive and blah blah blah, and list goes on, insert here. And that takes away from the aspects of really the impact that storytelling has. So, me personally, my introduction of Steven Spielberg was during the Jurassic Park eras. First the first generation of it, and it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, too, when something is successful and it works for whatever reason, now it's popular to continue what is successful instead of trying to do something. Take a risk on something, and if it doesn't work, move on and think about other forms of content, the original or research other movies or television shows or what have you. But what can you say? The time has told about that, and time will tell about that, how successful that would be. All right, so getting back to Steven Spielberg. When he got it right, he really did. So with Jurassic Park, my first introduction to Jurassic Park, and then E.T. and so forth. All right, so he really captured the aspects of what you cannot see very well and how that impacts the character. So, that one scene where the girl is hiding and she's in fear that she's going to die. She doesn't know what's going to happen. She's just trying to hold on to a shred of hope that the dinosaurs will bypass her. But it inches, and you can feel the agony of that hoping and wishing that you weren't in that situation. So when I saw E.T., I thought it was very cute. It was so cute. And it was absolutely innovative in the perspective of when it came out in its time, because, there weren't really family-oriented movies that dealt with different aspects of life the way it did. So, of course, as I mentioned before in a other podcast, like the concept of women moving on and the finding their own way and path and whatever and what have you, in movies and television, particularly in movies, when you get women like the movie Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. You get the concepts of the ugliness of sorting all that crap out of, not understanding, it's a time and place for everything, as far as moving on with your life and the way of dating and so forth. I'll just leave it at that. And it wasn't all focusing on that, but it's just the whole point of that movie was, you gotta see things for what it is, and you gotta pay attention to, your actions really do have consequences on others around you, and trying to meld that together. And I think that's the whole reason why that didn't really translate a whole lot into the television adaptation, because, especially at that time, we got to be happy. We got to be with the concept of marketing, the illusion of happiness sells. All right. So, you got a single mom, she's newly divorced from what I understand. It's been a little bit since I've seen it. And, she's got 3 kids. Remembering those 3 kids. She's trying to hold everything together, but she's also working and everything, and she's maintaining all these things. And so in the midst of all of this that's going on, she's not understanding the transitions that her children are experiencing, the aspects of divorce. And so, her youngest son is really getting in a transition of trying to figure out how to, merge in between this new normal that he's experiencing, the aspects of being in a new town, school, all of this. And so the means of E.T. coming in his life is like an aspect for, a call to action for him to find his own path or his own identity. And that's really something how,
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
That pave that the familiarity of, what it's like to be a child trying to figure out something that's new and the unknown, but trying to do that in a gentle and an understanding way is something. And so it was unfortunate with the movie Color Purple and stuff like that. So you can see the transition of, Steven Spielberg being the way he is, with the aspects of going on the bandwagon of pro names and this, and it's an insult to call which they don't want to be called that. Latino people, Latina people, Mexican, Cuban, whatever, Americans, whatever you are, the ones that aren't Americans, for where the country is from, being proud of their own country, but just putting a label and stifling them with one term as Latinx. It's like, what the hell are you doing? But you can kind of see the writing on the wall, how that translates to, making a film like Color Purple, which is very, controversial in itself. And that's something that's, it's like, okay, so from my point of view, movies like that, it's like, how about this? You just honestly talk about something, okay? Just talk about it and the means of what it is. But why does it have to be the extended onto something? Well, she has to, her terrible plight. She just, woe is me on top of it. God, don't do that. Just, I don't know. That kind of, that's a lot to me. I don't understand anything like that. Why do things have to be exposed that way? And, the book, The Color Purple, is a lot more graphic than, what was presented in the film. And that says a whole bunch. But Alice Walker, her type of style of writing was sort of that way. She had, different levels of talking about the aspects of being a commentator of the African American experience. But I think that was one of the most extreme cases of it. And so, when you get into a movie like Jaws, his storytelling really takes a forefront to, transitioning the way that, other movies as far as suspense has unfolded itself throughout time. So, before he came along, Steven Spielberg, you didn't really see, especially when the aspects of suspense and horror was involved. You just pretty much, you got what you got. You said, hey, this is this menacing thing. It's going to get me. Bam, this is over. But, I will say that Hitchcock and, Vincent Price was more in the macabre and stuff like that. And Rod Serling. Now, Rod Serling was unique in the aspects of being suspenseful with science fiction and supernatural. And that was pretty neat. I think that's really neat. Now, Alfred Hitchcock, he toyed with the aspects of horror suspense, but it was more in a way that was like they're all calculated, but it was more in a way that was not as heightened with the suspense as the movie Jaws, because you really didn't know. It was just this menacing presence that even the score for the movie, doom, 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 like, what the heck is that? And then before you know it, bam, bam, damn, bam, and damn. There you go. Come and drag you down. You're a goner. And so, what relays me back, I saw a really good documentary about Steven Spielberg some years ago. HBO did this documentary, and it was called Spielberg or something like that, right? And so, it expelled the aspects of It talked about Steven Spielberg's life, but also about his work. And all of the suspense really draws me back to what he said. A lot of his inspiration was I'm trying to recall this movie, but I just want to talk about these things in real time so you understand. So everything is not so scripted when I'm explaining to you and giving you my thoughts about things. So you just hear me in a way of being candid about what I'm thinking, and then everything else is, research and all of that, and I get more information towards the end. So y'all tell me what you think about this process too. All right, so there was a movie, particularly in the late 60s, the early 70s, and so the guy who played McLeod, and he was in other stuff, but his notable role was in McLeod. From what I understand, I think that was the actor that was in this film. Well, it made for TV movie. And so it was this menacing thing where it was this truck driver following him. It was just following him, and he didn't know why. And it was a call to action for him to assert himself in his own position of where he wanted to be in his life. Like he just had, because he was going through a lot of transitions of trying to get stuff together. He was really stuck at a rock and a hard place, literally, he was with this menacing presence of this truck driver following him. Just everywhere he would go, he would be right behind him. It's as if he's looking over his shoulder. And it's also as if it was a manifestation of, of the way that he needs to transition his life into something else and to something more than what he was doing or what he was, being compelled to be complacent with. And so, a movie like that being showcased, especially a made-for-television movie like that, it really shows, a lot with the landscape of storytelling that was going on in the 70s. But it's late 60s, early 70s, so forth. Well, around that time, it really goes to the impact of what inspired Spielberg to me, of why Jaws was so impactful, of the paying attention to detail, of not knowing what something is, and then giving a visceral attention or emphasis on how something is impactful to the viewer. So with all that said, I'm going to wrap up and get in all the facts of Jaws. Here we are. And here we go. All right. So here are the facts on Jaws. And of course, sources will be provided for you. Okay, so Jaws, of course, came out in 1975. It's an American thriller film directed by Steven Spielberg, based on a Peter Beachley 1974 novel of the same name. The film starred Roy Schneider as the police chief, Martin Brody, Robert Shaw as Shark Hunter Quint, and the Shark Hunter Quint, that is, and Richard Dreyfuss as oceanographer Matt Hopper, and Lorraine Gray as Brody's wife, Ellen. Now, particularly with the cast, it was quite interesting in the disposition that the characters had in place of the main point of the film, particularly with Russell Dreyfuss. When he's coming out of which they had talked about that in the Steven Spielberg documentary. We're talking about the whole aspects of, you have that, they were all friends, that group where it was Scorsese, and then it was Lucas. They were all together working on films. And so it's quite interesting how Richard Dreyfuss was in one of Steven Spielberg's movies, because he was not too long around the time, or not too long before Jaws. He was in American Graffiti and all of the inner aspects of transition with youth culture and coming to terms and all that, and then him being in a movie like that, like Jaws, where you have to prove yourself and so forth in the midst of fear. Is quite interesting. All right, so going back, so again, this movie was based on, and then, they say based on a true story. Most of the time that's not true, but it's, here we go with this. So the movie is based on a true story with Peter Benchley's novel, inspired by a series of shark attacks that occurred off coast of New Jersey. So in 1916, an incident where a New York fisherman named Frank Mudders caught a 5,500-pound shark off the coast of Modoc in 1964. So the challenges of this film, and there was a lot of issues going on with, as far as the budget, and as far as the mechanics of the shark that they built, and they were talking about how heavy it was, and it took a whole team to control it, and it was just, behemoth to control, and it was just really added on the ante of the stress of producing this film. All right, so the film had trouble with production, going over budget and past schedule. So the mechanical shark suffered many malfunctions, leading Spielberg to mostly suggest the animal's presence using the theme created by composer John Williams. So the impact that Jaws had on cinema. Jaws was a prototypical summer blockbuster, with its release regarded as a moment in motion picture history. It became the highest grossing film of all time until the release of Star Wars. So the awards and recognition from this film. Jaws won 3 Academy Awards for Best Film Editing, Best Original Dramatic Score, and Best Sound. It was nominated for Best Picture along with Star Wars. Jaws was pivotal in establishing the modern Hollywood business model. Cultural impact. Jaws is considered one of the greatest films ever made, and is also credited with inventing the summer blockbuster. It has the 50th anniversary, which was in 2025, celebrating this. The mechanical shark. All right, so let's step into this. So the mechanical shark, named Bruce, was named after Steven Spielberg's lawyer, Bruce Rayner. The shark weighed more than a ton and was designed and built by production designer Joe Alves. Behind the scene, and the anecdotes behind the scenes. Okay, so the film took a very long time to make, with the original schedule was only 65 days to shoot, ballooning into 159 days, not counting post-production. The shark in Jaws weighed more than a ton. So the cinematic techniques. Spielberg used the theme created by composer John Williams to indicate the shark's coming. Again, combating the aspects of the mechanical shark not working, and trying to go on and find means of the way for to prolong the production of the movie. So you got do, which they understood quite well, the aspects of how music can really translate the mood of a film, or easily, quickly get into the imagery of what what they want the audience to convey from the movie or television or art piece or what have you. All right, so John Williams is to indicate the shark's coming appearance, as the mechanical shark often malfunctioned during the filming. So sequels, Jaws also followed by 3 sequels, none of them which was in participation of Spielberg or Benchley, and many intimate thrillers. Sorry for the tongue tie here. I'm going to go into some more facts and wrap everything up. So, of course, as I said, sources will be provided. So this is by Medium. So it's entitled 12 Facts About the movie Jaws. All right, so the movie was based on, as I said, the same book. And hold on just a second here. I'll pull this up right here for you. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. All right. So, it says, and then number 2, it says, Steven Spielberg worked in the TV movie Duel, resulting in getting the job directing for Jaws. So Duel was the film that I was talking about, with the aspects of that truck driver and everything, of that menacing presence. So the movies were deemed as a similar in theme. I guess Duel with the semi truck, as I was saying, was a land shark. So and that's a really good movie, by the way. I would suggest watching that. It just slipped my mind that Steven Spielberg was on the production crew. He was a part of making that movie. All right, so there's a reason why the shark doesn't make an appearance until 1 hour and 21 minutes into the movie. The mechanical shark wasn't working very well. Okay, so the shark was named Bruce, as I said, by Steven Spielberg's lawyer. All right, so Richard Dreyfuss was not the original choice to play Matt Hopper. John Voight, along with Timothy Bartons, Jeff Bridges, and they were all considered for the part of this character, but they went with Dreyfuss. And it's quite interesting because, you're talking about these actors, particularly with John Voight and Jeff Bridges. They had 2 different dispositions with, they all in point. But I think it has a lot to do with that Dreyfuss was already in a film with Lucas, and that whole camaraderie of sticking with, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing with sticking and being all in one group and helping each other. But us also can be problematic, in the essence of translating that to new perspectives of stuff and everything. You get in the aspects of your whatever business you're creating, getting other input from other people besides the people you already know. Anyhow, I think that was the reigning aspects of choosing him, of choosing Dreyfuss. But we're getting back to John Voight and Jeff Bridges. They were both in very different movies. John Voight was in movies, particularly which shot him up to being very noticed when he was in Midnight Cowboy. When that's in the seediest, excuse me about that, being seedy, capturing the seedy aspects of life, in more ways than one, that's putting it mildly. but it's still, and then Jeff Bridges with the aspects of, being in films about coming to terms and coming of age about different stuff. These movies are quite different that they were starring in at the time, but they still focused in on the aspects of calling to action. There has to be a certain point in your life that you have to make some sort of change and realization about stuff. And I think that was the whole point, trying to get actors who understood how to sort of capsulate, not really capsulate, but sort of adapt that into a character. All right, so there is some actual shark footage in the movie. The famous "You're going to need a bigger boat" line was improvised by Rob Schneider. So that line is much better than "we need," as it goes, "we need a smaller shark." So originally the movie included a scene where Quint was watching Moby Dick in the movie theater. Gregory Peck owned the rights of the film and vetoed to use the clip in Jaws. All right, so the many malfunctions of Bruce and Shark led Steven Spielberg to give it another nickname. So the orca was painted with seagull poop, to make it look weathered. All right, so Sterling Hayden and Lee Marvin were the first choices to play Quint. Apparently, it was, like they say with the production house, they go with these assorted things about, and then apparently it's, I shouldn't say apparently, I'm just saying maybe it was a whole thing with the production house, when they have really big say so in where goes what and what goes who, and then they say they have a flavor of the month, so to speak, and they say this is right, this person is right, let's pushing, but then the director, gets say about, and then it's just one of those battles of who knows best and who foresees the characters the best and which actor they works it out to where it translates better for the film. All right, that doesn't always work, but hey, it's a thought, it's a theory. So Sterling Hayden and Lee Marvin were the first choices to play. I'm sorry, already said that. And to end, initially the film was going to be directed by Dick Richards, but he kept referring to the shark as a white whale, so that I guess that was the deciding factor there. All right, so this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. I'd like to know what you all think. Feel free to reach out to me. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.